Welcome back to the Future in Review, FiReStarter Conversations. Our next guest is Paul Clayson. He's the CEO of a fascinating company, AgilePQ. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Hey, tell us about your company.
AgilePQ is an encryption software company. What that means is we can secure data in transit and secure devices from attack, cyber attack. What's unique about us is that we can operate on the smallest of what are called IoT or Internet of Things devices. What that means is, maybe the best way to describe it is if anybody has a Nest thermostat that you can control from your smartphone, control the temperature on the wall. That is an IoT, an Internet of Things. It's a little tiny processor connecting a device to the Internet. Those particular small devices have become prolific in our society. There's over 20 billion of them in the market right now, which eclipses all other computing form factors combined. So these very small devices have not been able to have any security because the processors are too small. So we went out and created it. We can now secure those devices.
And the weakest link, if they're not secure, somebody could get in and get into the network somehow, right?
Yeah, so just think about it. If someone was able to get in through a Nest thermostat and then go to the smartphone, they now have access to your smartphone. They now then, if that's connected to your laptop, can get into your laptop. Yes. From there, they can get into your accounts at various companies. Sometimes they can even go all the way back through your very small device into a bank or some other place and get into their corporate system through your Nest thermostat. They can migrate. Hackers are extraordinarily smart these days, extraordinarily good at what they do.
And the proliferation of the Internet of Things is only going to increase. I mean, coffee makers, washing machines, I mean, everything is going to be connected.
Soda drinks, like a Coke bottle, they now have caps for that soda that is connected to the Internet.
With an RFI chip?
With an RFI chip, exactly, or sometimes even just a Bluetooth connection to connect for someone. Maybe it tells you when it's flat. Maybe there are other reasons that you may want to have that there. It tells you the age since it was opened, all kinds of things. And there are other uses of that, of course, for medications. Can tell you if a medication bottle's been opened, can tell you if it's been closed. So there's all kinds, but that's the extent to which these IoT devices are now being used.
And following that analogy of the weakest link of the fence, it could be that IoT. If somebody can get in there, then they can get in further on the network and really do some damage.
Yeah, so that's true for consumers, but think about this in terms of a manufacturing plant that may have 1 million devices across a massive automobile manufacturing plant that measures everything from vibration to heat to all kinds of things for predictive maintenance or for parts supply or for any kind of logistical support or a number of things. If all of those are connected and they can be broken into, you can now go from that right back into a corporate, past a firewall and into a corporate server and then take information right out the front door.
And how do you get your products to market?
So we work with multiple sources. So one is we'll go to maybe cellular carriers. So we follow whether it be Bluetooth or RFID or whatever it might be. We also can go to cellular carriers, which is the largest and fastest growing wireless connection for these very small devices. And they begin to work with us to put our technology into those small devices for their customers. We can go to what are called systems integrators who are picking technologies all over and collating them together to create an IoT system. Or we can go to a chip manufacturer that wants to produce a chip that already has security on it that will be used in an IoT device. There are multiple avenues to market.
And are you also involved in the edge computing, taking the distributed computing closer to these IoT devices? Are you securing them as well?
Yeah, so we actually consider those IoT devices to be the new edge because they are right at the leading edge of data gathering now. If it goes back now to the gateway, which is the former edge as we call it, we need to be able to do one of two things. Either continue through that gateway all the way back to the server with our technology, or secure that small device, then hand off at the gateway level to some other security system that's already in place, and then they continue on with that back. But I don't know why they do that, because our system, we built that system not only to be smaller, but it is vastly more secure than what's on your smartphone or what's used in those systems today.
Okay. You know, the best way to confuse me is to use the word quantum. And there's a description in your on your website that says quantum safe enterprise Internet of Things. What does that mean?
So there's a coming age of quantum computers, and maybe a really quick way to state this about quantum computers is a current computer performs functions in a linear manner. It will make calculations one after the next after the next.
Either a 1 or a 0.
Or 1 or a 0, exactly. Quantum computers don't use 1s and 0s. They use a new code system called qubits, and it allows them to calculate not just in a linear manner, but many, many calculations simultaneously and concurrently. So they can process massive amounts of data in a very short time. Google announced about 3 weeks ago that they had developed a computer with quantum supremacy. You've heard of it?
They put that on the web. They quickly took it down, but not before all these people had read it. They had actually put it on the web inadvertently, but it's fascinating.
So they said there, which boggles the mind, but they said there that they could process in 3 minutes the same amount of data that the world's largest supercomputer today can process in 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So what that means is that if you've got a quantum computer, it now can break the encryption security on your smartphone, on your bank, on your energy systems, on government systems, on Department of Defense and defense systems around the world, nuclear codes.
Yeah.
You start thinking about how scary that is.
Right.
We've got to come up with, and we did, we've got to come up with technology that will survive a quantum computing age. Our computers are what we call post-quantum safe. So when quantum computers are put in place, we will still be secure even with a quantum computer attack.
Right. With that inadvertent announcement by Google, I would also add that applications, they ran a program for 3 minutes. It didn't do anything really, but the applications will be several years coming, I think. It's going to take a while.
Some people say 20 years, some people say 15,
Yeah.
some people say 5.
That's right.
I will throw out that right now I think we ought to be very, very careful, because China is spending vastly more, as in maybe up to 15 times more money to develop quantum computers right now than we are.
Their focus is quantum and AI. They're going after both very aggressively.
They are.
Yep. So let me ask you, just products, or are you also selling services? Consulting? Are you selling installation services? Support?
Yeah, really, really good. You bet. So we recognize that we are an emerging technology with an emerging company in an emerging market. So to get people there, we do consulting to help people understand what needs to be done and how we can do it. 2, we do help people integrate our security into their products. We typically charge a non-recurring engineering fee, an NRE as it's called,
Sure.
to get that done. And then we charge for the technology itself as a per unit per year charge.
Okay. What's your biggest challenge?
Our biggest challenge is good enough. Okay. We run into companies and people out there constantly that say, well, I've got an authentication and authorization system. That should be good enough for a small device. So wrong. I mean, we've got one of the world's 4 best white hat hackers on our staff. He can get through an authentication authorization system, a typical one, in about 2 minutes. It just isn't good security.
Right.
So we've created a new authentication authorization system as part of what we're doing that you can't get through, but that it's just good enough. People are so nonchalant about this. It boggles my mind how people just seem to think, it won't happen to us.
Interesting. Paul, what are your expectations for the Future in Review conference?
You know, there are a tremendous number of really smart people from a lot of big technology companies here. I want to meet as many of them as possible. We'll give a presentation. I'd like people to recognize what we do. There are investors here. We hope to connect with some investors. Most of all, we're just making sure that we get the word out about what we're doing, because we are new. We're not a known technology yet. And so we're in an initial mass marketing phase that will help people understand who we are and what we do. If people know that, we should be just fine as a company.
Yeah. Paul Clayson, CEO, AgilePQ, FiReStarter Future in Review Conference. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.